This world is a prison.
Hardly anyone would talk about the gaming industry in the world presently and not talk about Nintendo. If you're wondering why, it's because Nintendo has an awe-inspiring history where gaming is involved, plus a lot of super exciting facts. Hang around with us until the end of the video and we'll be sharing with you the story of Nintendo from the 1980s until today. And with all this talk about history, is Nintendo doing any better in today's gaming market? We'll also be talking about that, so be sure and stick around. Without further delay, let's get into it. With its headquarters in Kyoto, Japan, Nintendo has numerous game franchises attached to its name, not only in Japan but all over the world. These game franchises include Mario, Donkey Kong, The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Pokemon, Animal Crossing, Pikmin, and Splatoon, which Nintendo was able to create using its highly integrated software and hardware products. According to the Nintendo company, their aim is to deliver unique, intuitive entertainment experiences for everyone, manufacturing and marketing video game devices such as the Nintendo Switch family of systems, developing and operating applications for smart devices, and collaborating with partners on a range of other entertainment initiatives like visual content and theme parks. They further state that from the launch of the Nintendo Entertainment System more than 30 years ago through today and into the future, Nintendo's continuing mission is to create unique entertainment that puts smiles on the faces of people all over the world. In addition to all Nintendo's jaw-dropping achievements, the company also has a subsidiary in Frankfurt, Germany called Nintendo of Europe. Just like the Nintendo company in Kyoto, it serves as headquarters for all of Nintendo's dealings in Europe. In case you're not impressed yet, well, there's more. Nintendo has been able to sell over 5.1 billion video games and also more than 800 million hardware units all over the world. Without a doubt, Nintendo plays a major role in the gaming industry today and boasts of being one of the best gaming franchises in the world. Of course, things have not always been so rosy for the company, so let's take a trip down memory lane and see what it used to be like. Way back in 1889, Fusahiro Yamauchi, founder of Yamauchi Nintendo, which is now just called Nintendo, began manufacturing flower cards called Hanafudu. They are known as the playing cards that were used in Kyoto, Japan. About 13 years later, Mr. Yamauchi began creating the kind of playing cards that are common among Westerners. He originally created them for export, but the cards became very popular in Japan, and knowledge of those later spread to other parts of the world. It was finally in 1933 that Yamauchi Nintendo was established. However, as an unlimited partnership, so it was Yamauchi Nintendo and Company. Fast forward to 1947, Mr. Yamauchi began another company, a distribution company, and called it Marufuku Company Limited. Mr. Yamauchi went on to become president of Yamauchi Nintendo in 1950 and was specifically in charge of the manufacturing operation of the company. It was a year after that, in 1951, that the company's name got changed to Nintendo Playing Card Company Limited. In 1953, Nintendo Playing Card Company Limited emerged as the first company to successfully manufacture plastic playing cards in mass production in Japan. In 1959, the company opened a new market solely for children's cards, since it started producing playing cards with Walt Disney characters on them. That development boosted the economy of the company and caused them to continue to flourish in this territory. However, in 1963, it decided to change its name from what was previously called Nintendo Company Limited. At that point, rather than just manufacture playing cards, the company began to manufacture games as well. Due to the company's decision to start manufacturing games, it expanded its game department and made it a lot stronger than it used to be. One of the things the company did at that time was build a production plant in Uji City, a small town in Kyoto, Japan. In 1970, the company began distributing its Beam Gun series, which was created using optoelectronics. Nintendo was the first company to introduce electronic technology to the manufacturing of games and toys in Japan. In 1973, Nintendo came up with a shooting system using laser clay. The development turned out to be a rival to bowling in Japan at that time. And then later in 1974, they manufactured a medium for image projection and started using 16mm film projectors in arcade games and amusement parks. In addition, it further exported some arcades to Europe and America. In 1977, Nintendo, in partnership with Mitsubishi Electric, TV Game 15, and TV Game 6, created video games basically for home use. And in March the following year, Nintendo released an arcade table game inspired by the board game Othello called Computer Othello. In the game, green, white, and black pieces of Othello were substituted with the square and additional signs respectively. A person could play Computer Othello only with 10 colored buttons because there was no joystick at that time. To further boost the company's growth, the son-in-law of Hiroshi Yamauchi, Minoru Arakawa, established another Nintendo headquarters in New York, Nintendo of America. This newly established overseas headquarters enabled Nintendo devices to work with coin-operated games. In 1980, Nintendo started selling a series of the Game & Watch products in Japan. And as was customary of handheld devices at the time, the products grew famous in no time. The first was produced after Gunpei Yokoi, an employee of Nintendo, saw a man playing with a calculator while he was traveling. Gunpei then decided it would be a good idea to produce a device that would keep commuters busy while in transit. There was only one game on every Game & Watch, and there were about 60 of them. Some were inspired by arcade machines and also helped to bring big licenses, as well as game characters like Donkey Kong, The Legend of Zelda, Mario Brothers. They all came into Nintendo. But what about the evolution of the different consoles and devices? The Nintendo Entertainment System, popularly called NES, was majorly designed for home use and also to play 8-bit games. It was the best-selling system of its time, selling about 60 million units, and was very instrumental in helping North America rebound from the video game collapse of 1983, which happened as a result of multiple consoles flooding the market and personal computers becoming way too powerful. NES was introduced at the 1985 Consumer Electronics Show in Japan as Famicom, or Family Computer, and they were introduced as NES in North America. Super Mario Brothers, Ice Climber, Pinball, and Duck Hunt were among the games released at that time. A system with Super Mario Brothers sold for $99, while a deluxe set, which had 2 games on it and other peripherals, sold for $199.99, so it was possible to purchase either system. Game Boy is another fantastic game console by Nintendo. It was created by that Game & Watch team and merged elements of the original handheld with NES-style swappable cartridges. About 120 million Game Boys were launched in 1998 and were sold at that time. When it came out in America, it was roughly $90 and included a Tetris copy, which was credited for driving massive sales. Nintendo also produced a printer and a magnifying screen that had built-in lights. The second major console on Nintendo, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or the SNES, was a huge hit, despite stiff competition from Sega's Mega Drive. Nintendo's library of games enabled it to become the best-selling 16-bit system of all time, with about 50 million units sold worldwide. The Super Famicom was Nintendo's console version for the Japanese market. It also encoded the cartridges so that you couldn't play games from one country to another. The Virtual Boy was an odd and ultimately catastrophic console, although it's now seen as a precursor to home virtual reality. The Virtual Boy was mounted on a table, so players had to rest on the visor for support. Unfortunately, instead of providing a space-like experience, most of the game players reported feeling sick after playing the game, and the project was dropped altogether. Virtual Boy only lived for a few months, so it might not have gone out of Japan or the United States. The N64, named after the 64-bit CPU, was Nintendo's final home console to use cartridges. It was the most powerful of its generation and a huge hit when it came out. It couldn't quite match the popularity of its predecessor, selling just under 33 million units, but those in the know still see the N64 as a wonderful Nintendo gaming console even to this day. The games, a big part of the success. Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and GoldenEye 007, all still considered classics. Other Nintendo products that came out: the Nintendo GameCube from 2001 to 2007, the Game Boy Advance 2001 to 2008, Nintendo DS 2004 to 2014, the Nintendo Wii from 2006 to 2013, the Nintendo Wii U from 2012 to 2016, the NES Classic Mini from 16 to 17, and the Super NES Classic Edition from 2017 to 18, and some others. Of all the games with over 10 million sales in the world today, Nintendo stands among the top 10. Super Mario during the mid-80s had the highest number of game sales, with about 40 million at the time.
Wait till they get a load of me!
While Pokemon hit about 32 million after its release in 1996. And then 10 years later, Wii Sports was released and it reached twice the amount of sales that Super Mario made, with 82 million. So far, it's the highest grossing game of all time, and that puts Nintendo at the top of the world's game chain. So how is Nintendo so successful with their games? According to research, the answer can be found right within the Nintendo ecosystems. Nintendo has always been particular about opening up its games to other consoles, as well as following or copying competitors. While Microsoft and Sony have been battling on squeezing the most juice out of their systems, beefing horsepower to extract droplets of eye candy for shooters and action games, Nintendo has chosen to remain focused on gaming experiences. While modern publishers and consoles are isolating gamers in their own distinct bubble and passing isolated multiplayer sessions as social gaming, Nintendo has managed to get people together to have fun with the Wii, for example. The people not interested in Wii are already busy collecting and pointing Pokemons at each other in school, campuses, and even during lunch breaks and at work. Nintendo has been chiefly focused on gaming experiences, novel concepts, and disruption. The Game Boy concept has focused on portability, the Wii on family fun, and NES, well, on all the innovation at the time, the home gaming market. Those reasons have been the origin of their success. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and activate that notification bell to get more inspiring videos. Cheers! We'll see you next time.